Worship is the most natural expression of the church. It's just simply an honest expression of who we are in relationship to who He is. Worship is based on His worth and our opportunity to just express value for who He is, for what He's like. So worship is just, it's practical, it's normal. Anything else would be dishonest. We were born to worship.
There was a plague on the land, and the prophet said, you know, if you want to stop this plague, you need to go down and buy this guy's property, build an altar, and offer up a sacrifice. So David goes down to this guy's property. He says, hey, I need to buy your property. The guy's rich, and he says to David, you can have the property. You're the king. You can have the property. And David makes this profound statement. He says, far be it from me that I should offer to God something that costs me nothing.
Worship is not just an expression of a passing emotion, but it's an attitude of life. It's every day, it's every hour, it's every moment, it's every second of every day. Us learning what it is to submit, to obey, and not only just to obey, but to become friends with God. So when we're going throughout our day and God wants us to go left, we're in a place of worship so we can hear that voice, one, and two, respond in obedience.
You know, we're obviously parents. We have, 3 kids. And if our kids come to us for different things, and, they may come to us because they need something, or they may come to us to, tell us thank you for something. But our favorite time is when our kids come to us for the random, just because I love you. Like, when they're running by the couch and you're sitting there and they just, jump up on you and I love you, mommy, that's the best. And I feel like that we all, in a corporate setting, we come to the Lord and we thank Him, or we come to Him because we need something. Not that we don't have needs and we don't want that, but we really have this heart of celebrating God and blessing Him and enjoying Him. There's this huge aspect of enjoying God as a child. And I love that. I love when my kids just love me and hang out with me. I love just hanging out on the couch with my kids or eating dinner, doing life. I love that. And, there's times when they come to me and they need stuff, or I've got to help them with something, or, the other aspects of being a parent. But, man, I think God just loves when we hang out with Him.
Worship is something you do every day from the minute you wake up till you go to sleep at night. It's something that you choose. It's this... It's just this choice to be selfless instead of selfish. It's the laying down of your life and your affection and your love, and it's saying, I'm going to live for you, and I'm going to die for you, and it's all for you, because you already, He paid everything for me to be close to Him. He paid the ultimate sacrifice so that there would be no space between us. And so when I think about worship, I think about filling in all the space, because he went as far as He could to come to me. He's done everything He could to get to me. And if there's any space, it's because I created that space. It's because I gave somebody that place or some situation or something that's that place. And so in worship, that's a constant choice to remove the space and say, come and fill in this space so there's nothing between us. And this is what I have to give you. And it's a big deal to Him, but it doesn't feel that big to us. I'm always saying, this feels so small to me. I don't feel like with my whole life, I could pay you back. But I'll try, and here it is. To gaze upon your beauty, God.
As my dad began to teach on this, way back in about 1970, 1971, and when he began to teach on worship, I began to find out why I was alive. And when he taught on the privilege of ministering to God, I bowed my head and I said, God, I give you the rest of my life to teach me this one thing. And I knew that it was a life's call, and not a life call that's unique to me or to you, not a life call that's unique to Bethel or to Redding. It's unique to every believer. We are connected to this amazing Father, and honor is the most practical expression there is to anyone who sees Him for who He is.
My favorite place in worship, my favorite kind of worship, is when it is the most high praise. It's when It's when you really are offering a sacrifice of praise, and everything inside of you, the highest praise is coming from the deepest place inside of you. And I don't care if it's loud music, I don't care if it's quiet, if it's just keys, or if it's a full band and your face is getting rocked off. It's that place when you're giving everything that you possibly can, and your praise turns into glory. It's like the hope of glory, Christ in me, came out because I lifted my highest praise, and now it's turned into glory and come back down on the people.
God, we wait for you to come and show your
I watched the Lord back in the charismatic renewal. If people that maybe would have had resistance to a teaching on a subject would sing a song about that subject, and that song would actually instruct them scripturally on a subject that they were maybe resistant to, but they didn't have resistance because it was in music. And so the Lord has a sneaky way of introducing things to us in music that we might have a hard time with if they were in a, like some sort of a home Bible study where we're debating and discussing things. It just gets presented in a musical form where we suddenly just become open to things. And I don't mean that at all, obviously, in a negative way. We become open to what God is doing because we've experienced His presence on that subject in a worship time. And it kind of helps to break down some of the resistance,
I feel like music is powerful because of that. Because music in worship, it opens us up to receive something. We could spend 3 hours talking about a subject, but you put it into a song that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes long. And music has this gentle way of imparting truth and opening us up to receive the truth.
I don't think that worship can happen without some kind of revelation from God. Worship is a response. And if you've never experienced God, it's kind of difficult to respond to Him. But anyone who's experienced God, worship is not something that I have to think about. It's not this logical assent,
When I live for God and everything I do, my actual body becomes an instrument of worship. So like a guitar player, when he strums the guitar and sings a song, that's worship. But if I'm a mechanic, when I dedicate what I do to God, that crescent wrench becomes an instrument of worship. That screwdriver becomes an instrument of worship. So that I don't live this dualistic life like on Sunday I go to worship service and the rest of the week I do what? I do whatever. But I realize that I am actually an instrument of worship, and everything I do draws the presence of God because I'm an open heaven where the angels ascend and descend.
It's incredibly unnatural for a human being to not worship God if they've experienced God. In fact, when it says in Revelations that every knee is going to bow and every tongue is going to confess, that's simply because every person is going to be standing before the Lord. And the instinct, the thing, they won't have any option. They're going to see God for who He is. There's not going to be any ability to ignore the fact that they're in His presence, in His midst, and they're going to fall to their knees and they're going to say, "You are indeed God," because that's what happens when human beings encounter God. And so, I don't have to think about worship. It's not like, okay, God's worthy. I know that in my head. Someone taught me that in Sunday school. I think for me, it's about encountering God, and in that place of encounter, worship flows like the most instinctual thing in the world, and that's where I try and live.
I know there's so many things that vie for my attention, my affections, my time, and I know that time is so sweet because it's the time where I get to pour out my love to Him. It's the time where I get to be the Mary of Bethany who breaks the oil at His feet and just worship Him and adore Him for who He is and the greatness of God and the beauty of Jesus. And it's this vision that kind of captures my heart of worship, where I get to look on something bigger than me, bigger than my situation, bigger than all my hopes, worries, and fears. Like, He is the desire of all nations.
Everyone always stands up and worship, and it's really good, but I love sitting down. And lately, I have found God more sitting down in worship than I have standing up. And it's not a formula. Please don't sit down and worship just because you're hearing this. But for me, it's been this challenge. You know, Chris Valton, our associate pastor, he lays on the front row. He just lays down half the time, and I love it. And God has really been speaking to me lately to watch my patterns, and to watch if I'm doing something just because I've always done it, and not for the sake of breaking tradition or anything like that, but to find Him in a new way, and to make sure that I'm not in autopilot. And, you know, I'm coming with the same thing, and but to come with an expectancy, and to come with this, to show up in this relationship. A lot of times I feel like, you know, we're here and we do it to serve, and we do it as servants, which is really, the heart is right, but at the same time, we're not only servants, but we're also in a relationship. We're also lovers. And so finding yourself showing up in this relationship to making it new every time, and to really loving Him to the best of your ability every single time you come into, especially a corporate worship setting, but at the same time, just with your life.
A river of living water, a fountain that never will run dry.
I think music is such a powerful tool for transformation and reformation. You know, in the 60s, you could not buy a Beatles album in Russia because the KGB said, if people hear Beatles music, they'll know that there are happy people in the world, and they will tear down these walls. And so a Beatles album cost a month's wages, and they went into the forest and they would buy them on the black market. Why? Because the KGB realized that music could change the world.
Like, you go to a U2 concert, it's ridiculous. You come into the room, there's an energy, there's an excitement, and people, I mean, basically you're attending a worship service of sorts. People are attributing worth to something, you know? And I just think about, okay, if that's what we attribute to a band, U2, if that's what we attribute to a game, what should we be attributing to the God who is the maker of all things, the creator of heaven and earth? What kind of response does that command out of His people? And I just think we have yet begun to tap into the kind of celebration and faith-filled worship that we're called to walk in.
And we're saying, this is the God we serve. Listen, you got a problem, He's got an answer. He's the God who does the impossible. There's nothing, you're sick, He can heal you. You're brokenhearted, He can restore you. You messed up your life, He can give you a new start. His love rewrites your history. His power can restore your body, your mind. Whatever you've done, God can do better. Whatever power destroyed you, God can put you back together. God's the God that knows how to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And so we're singing about God can do anything. God can do not only can He likely will. It's not just possible, it is probable that He will heal your body, He will restore your mind, and He will renew your life.